Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for the MNSure webinar. My name is Katie Bull, and I'm an Agency Relations Account Specialist at Second Harvest Heartland. Today, we are pleased to have Bethany Schneider, MNSure Director of Grassroots Outreach, presenting the webinar for us. Before we get started, I just want to cover a couple of quick housekeeping details. Your lines are all muted, so you don't need to worry about any background noise. If you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to enter them in the question box. This is located in the control panel, which is that box to the right of your screen. We'll also have some time at the end to answer questions. If you'd like to ask a question out loud, you can click on the hand icon and we can unmute your line. You can also contact your account specialist after the webinar if you have additional questions, and we'll also be providing a copy of the PowerPoint. This webinar will be recorded and accessible on Agency Zone within the next week, and we'll also be sending out a follow-up email with a link to the presentation, as I mentioned, and any additional resources. So now I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Bethany.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Just, Katie, can you give me a shout out that you can hear me? Make sure, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Thanks, Bethany.
Well, great. Excellent. So, again, thank you so much for that introduction. Again, my name is Bethany Schneider, and I am currently the MNSure Director of Grassroots Outreach. Just a little bit of background first about me is that I actually work for a consulting firm called Grassroots Solutions, which is located in Minneapolis. And MNSure has hired us to help run their outreach last year. And so we really work closely with MNSure staff on the outreach. And yeah, so I just wanted to let you know about that. I'm not actually a state employee, but I do work for a consulting firm, but work very closely with MNSure. So, you know, the purpose of this webinar is just to give you a background on MNSure, recognizing that many of you work with folks in the community who struggle with getting access to health care, or many of the folks that you serve would be eligible for public programs or might just be on the cusp and need help accessing health coverage. So that's why you are vitally important and why we are having this webinar to begin with. So first I'm just going to talk about some basics about what is MNSure, who can enroll and when, just some really basic things. So if you are talking to people, you know some idea about some of the dates, but then also how you can help in connecting any of your consumers who are in need with MNSure. So without further ado, I'll just jump right in. So MNSure is Minnesota's healthcare marketplace. So it's a very simplistic analogy, but I compare it to like Travelocity. MNSure is not a health insurance plan or company, but it's a marketplace where you can shop for insurance plans, just like you would use Travelocity or Expedia to shop for an airline ticket. And you can compare and contrast the different options on MNSure. You can also apply for a public health insurance and then shop for what we call a qualified health plan, and that is a private health insurance plan if you're not eligible for a public plan. And anyone can shop on MNSure, whether you're eligible for financial assistance or not. It's a place where anyone who does not have access to employer-based health care can shop for a health insurance plan. Again, MNSure is not a health insurance company, and it's not the ACA or Obamacare itself. The ACA, or the Affordable Care Act, is the law that helped create MNSure is based on, but it's not, you know, Obamacare. So just some quick terminology. And so just to really get into some timelines, so people want to know who can enroll and when. So open enrollment is what we call the time period in which consumers can enroll in a private health insurance plan. And this has changed the way we're going into the third open enrollment period coming up this fall. The first year was 6 months long, last year was 4 months long, and this year it's about 4 months long, a little bit different time frame. And so this year, the open enrollment period begins November 1st and will go through January 31st. And anyone who enrolls in a private health insurance plan before January 1st, or it might be like January 15th or December 15th, their health insurance will start on January 1st. Because of the Affordable Care Act, all Americans now must carry health insurance coverage, and if they don't they have a potential of getting a tax penalty. And unless eligible for an employer coverage, a public program, or a special enrollment period, consumers should enroll during open enrollment period. I think we get into what a special enrollment period is in a minute, but this is for folks who might be self-employed, unemployed, but maybe their household income doesn't deem them eligible for a public program, a self-proprietor, a kid who is 26 and graduated from college, and has graduated from college, doesn't have access to employer health insurance. All of these folks are eligible and should enroll after November 1st. So consumers eligible for public health insurance programs can enroll all year round. So if someone that you come in contact with meets the eligibility criteria for Medicaid, also known as MA or medical assistance or Minnesota Care, that open enrollment period is all year round. Once they become eligible, they can apply. And this is consumers earning less than 200% of the federal poverty level. And the MNSure application just determines the consumer's eligibility for financial assistance. So folks need to start enrolling to find out if they are eligible for this public program. And renewals are called annually upon notice from state. So if they enroll in October or June, every year it'll happen at that time, if they are considered eligible still. So these are the special enrollment periods are for folks. It's a 60-day window of time, beginning at a date of loss of coverage and when consumers can enroll. So, for example, this could be triggered by a loss of job, a marriage, a child giving birth to a child, permanent change of address. All of these things would be considered a special enrollment period, and folks have a 60-day window to enroll. So who should take action starting November 1st? First, any uninsured Minnesotan. So if you have folks that you're working with who don't have health insurance, if you think they'd be eligible for a public program, any time of the year they can see if they are eligible, and if they are eligible for a private plan, they'd have to wait till November 1st to enroll. Folks who are insured, whose coverage does not meet the ACA minimum essential coverage, and this is a little more technical, but there's lots of information on MNSure's website about this. MNSure Marketplace, current MNSure Marketplace enrolled consumers who need to renew their plan November 1st, and then current MNSure Marketplace enrolled consumers who would like to shop or enroll in a new plan. So all of these things can take place between November 1st and January 31st. So why should folks use MNSure? Well, first of all, MNSure is the only place where Minnesotans can receive financial assistance in the form of an advanced premium tax credits. So this is folks whose income is between 200 and 400% of the FPL, who don't qualify for a public program, but qualify for a private health insurance plan and can get financial assistance. The only way they can find out if they get this financial assistance is through MNSure. They have guaranteed renewability in a plan, even if that same plan is no longer available. And this is the most important thing, folks can get free expert in-person assistance through the use of navigators and brokers. I'm going to get into a little bit more what navigators and brokers are, but we found that many folks need help enrolling in a plan. We know this great access to health insurance is new for many folks, and they might not have experience enrolling in a health insurance plan. And it's complicated. Healthcare is super, unfortunately, complicated. So we have free expert in-person assisters who can help folks navigate that process. So there's a lot of different ways to connect consumers to MNSure, that consumers can connect to MNSure. So first is through MNSure.org. That is the first place we encourage folks to go. On MNSure.org, there's a ton of information, but specifically, you can see there's a sister directory that has a directory of the navigators and brokers across Minnesota. Again, these are trained and connected assisters who are free. Again, there's the online assister directory, and there will be, starting with open enrollment period, an online events calendar. So many of these assisters have enrollment events across the state. And I'll get into that a little bit more about what that means. So these are a little bit about navigators. So navigators are trained individuals based in trusted community organizations. They do not charge for their services. They are not employed by the county, state, or MNSure. They are not insurance agents or brokers. They're based in community-based organizations. So for example, a few agencies of Second Harvest Heartland, like the Lutheran Social Services, they have a navigator, someone on their staff trained as a navigator. We have Pillsbury United Communities, many community clinics like United Family Medicine, ARC Twin Cities, NAMI, all of these community-based organizations have navigators on staff, and there's a list of them on MNSure's website. Now, the thing with navigators is they cannot recommend a plan or carriers, but they can help people understand the difference. So if someone is working with a navigator and they find out they are eligible for a qualified health plan with financial assistance, a navigator can't say, well, I think this Blue Cross Blue Shield plan is better for you or this Health Partners plan. They can just lay out the options and the consumer will have to decide, which is a key difference between a navigator and a broker. So again, many navigators have enrollment events across the state. Specifically, they have them all year round, but it really gears up during open enrollment. They will be in libraries, in markets, all different places where they might interact with the public who needs health insurance. And these are great ways during open enrollment. You can find this online calendar, and if you have consumers who need help, you can look up and say, oh, there's going to be an enrollment event taking place next week. I encourage you to go, or obviously you can connect them directly to an assister in the area. So brokers, they're your insurance brokers. You know, many of us are familiar with them. They're licensed by the Minnesota Department of Commerce. They're trained and certified by MNSure as well. They typically do not charge for their services, but they are compensated by insurance companies. So if they sell on behalf of Blue Cross Blue Shield or Health Partners, they get compensated by the insurance company. They are not employed by the county, state, or MNSure. And again, a key difference is they can provide advice as to which insurance plan is best for an individual situation based on their medical needs or their financial situation. So again, the key difference between a broker and a sister is a broker can help someone pick out a plan. Navigators cannot. Also, another difference is navigators typically are excel more in the public program arena, and brokers excel more in the private health insurance plan arena. So those are the key differences, and they're also listed on the online assister directory. So we also have a group of folks, navigator organizations, called Outreach and Enrollment Grantees. Again, these are community organizations that have navigators on staff. They apply for funding through MNSure to do outreach in their community. And so some of the ones I named earlier, Family, United Medicine, Pillsbury United Communities, they all were outreach and enrollment grantees last year, ARC, NAMI. And so many of these serve specific communities. For example, NAMI is very skilled at reaching the community of folks who need assistance finding a plan that would cover any kind of mental or behavioral health issues. ARC Twin Cities really has expertise in helping folks in the disability community. So these are, most of these outreach and enrollment grantees are really embedded in their communities and have expertise serving their communities. The outreach grantees start on July 1st, so they have not been, they will not be publicly known until then, and then they will be on MNSure's website. But before then, if you need help finding a grantee organization, you can contact me, and my contact information will be at the end of this presentation. So the nuts and bolts of this, I'm really moving fast through this webinar. The nuts and bolts of what I want to talk to you about is how can you partner with MNSure? So last year we had a team of outreach organizers that really worked with grantees and within communities to connect with new consumers. And what we found is that some of our organizers had a lot of success working with food banks, specifically food shelves and other community organizations that provide meals to communities and families in need. And what our organizers did, they did different things with these with organizations who are willing to partner. Sometimes our organizers would just come during meal times or when food shelves were the busiest during their hours, and would just talk to consumers and ask them if they needed help finding health insurance. They would take their contact information and they would either pass them along to a navigator directly, or the navigator would reach out to the consumers directly. The organizers bring a navigator to specific times that the food bank was willing, and they would just set up shop and talk to consumers as they were getting services from your providers, and really either took down their contact information to follow up with them later, or actually did enrollment events on site, enrolled people on site in healthcare. So there's a lot of different ways that we feel that you could partner with MNsure. And again, I just want to underscore the vital role that you play in your community in helping connect community members to MNsure. We know, and you know this better than I do, as you're the experts, that folks in need have a lot of barriers to getting healthcare coverage, and we really want to work through you to help eliminate those and make it really easy for you. So there's a few different ways if you're interested in partnering with MNsure, and we would expect you would do this in coordination with a MNsure staff person or with a grantee. It'd be never something you would do alone. One would be, again, organize an enrollment or informational event on site. Publicize it to your consumers and let them know that a MNsure representative is going to be there a certain day. And we could set it up various ways to either have it be an enrollment event, which takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the consumer's need to enroll in health coverage. So you take that in mind, or just provide information and then take down consumers' information to be followed up with. That's one option. You could host regular reoccurring information or enrollment events. Again, we did this last year, where maybe an agency would host something twice a month, and a navigator would be there to answer questions or actually sign folks up. Then if they're regular, then folks just kind of know, oh, they're going to be there next Thursday, and I know that for any duration of time. You can share MNsure information through your communication channels, so such as newsletters, webinars like this, blogs. We can provide you with template newsletter articles that you can use, flyers, posters, etc. You can participate in social and earned media campaigns. So maybe you just want to put out a Facebook post that says that it's MNsure is open enrollment, and remind, maybe link to the sister directory or the events calendar, and let folks in your community know that this is happening. Just help spread the word really easily that way. And then obviously we're always looking to collect stories and provide community validation. Again, you and your staff are trusted leaders in your community, and people really look to you for that trusted advice. And if they know that you're saying MNsure is a way to get health insurance, you really provide that validation. As you know, we work with a lot of vulnerable communities. We work with refugee and immigrant communities, and this is very new. We know that in many of our immigrant and refugee communities, they just don't even have the concept of health insurance. That was not something they had in their home country, and so there's a lot of education, and they just don't know who to trust. And if you say, MNsure is our trusted health insurance marketplace where we can provide you with help, they are willing to listen. So this is just a snapshot of the MNsure website. This is changing, but it basically looks like this. This is where individuals or family might go to look for new coverage, enroll in a special enrollment period, and just look for opportunities. You can see that there's the sister directory, find help near you. And looks like this was last year's open enrollment period. Is up there for important dates. But MNsure.org is really the place to get the most up-to-date information. So MNsure also has a customer service center where folks can call during specific hours and ask questions. This changes during open enrollment, usually has longer hours. If folks need a call, we just talk to someone at the customer service center, and then obviously MNsure.org. So yeah, I really breezed through this. I know I'm a fast talker, but I really want to leave some time for you to ask me questions. If any of your agencies are interested in helping with MNsure, or if you helped last year and you want to talk about your experience, I'd love to hear that. So yeah, just open it up to folks on the line.
Yeah, so please go ahead and if you want to raise your hand, I can certainly unmute your line if you want to say anything or ask a question. Otherwise, you can also type in questions. And I actually had a couple questions just as we went through, Bethany, that I can start us out with as well while we're waiting for people to type things in here. So I guess my first question was if I think a lot of our most of the people who these food shelves are serving are going to be under that 200% federal poverty level. And so if somebody comes in and sits down and is doing intake, today and says, I really need some health insurance, or I really need help figuring this out, what would that look like? I mean, would it be best to go on and find an assister that is nearby them? Do you have resources that could be given directly out to clients if they just come in when there isn't a navigator on site?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple things you can do. One is if you can assess their comfortability with using online resources, definitely you can point them to the MNSure.org. However, if there obviously is a barrier, they don't have access to internet, there's a language concern, then, if you have online, you can definitely look them up look up the assister directory and try to find an assister near them. You can also call MNSure, the customer service line, and ask for an assister near them and ask for a navigator. And I can also, if you reach out to me, we can send you brochures. They might not be updated yet. I would have to take down your name and send you the updated brochures for the next open enrollment period, or send you what we have for now. But I can also send out brochures that you can hand folks and ask them to contact that has all the information on it. So there's various ways to help people. Another thing you could do, and I think this could be really helpful, is if your agency looked up the assister directory, found an assister near you, or one that an organization you're like, oh, I didn't know they had a navigator on site. We work with them all the time. I would contact that navigator and say, hey, can we just have a relationship? I would love to refer people directly to you. I think that could actually be the best way, is for you to already kind of have a navigator in mind, call them up, say, we'd love to refer our folks to you, and just ask them to send you some business cards, and just send out their business card directly. I think that might be the best way to do that. And like I said, there are some Second Harvest Heartland agencies who are navigators. They may or may not be in your region. So I would recommend using a sister directory, or I'm happy to help you in this process to find a navigator near you that you could just create a partnership with.
Wonderful, thank you. We have some really good questions here from Alicia at White Bear. So as probably a lot of our agencies on this webinar, they use Bridge to Benefits, some referrals, which refers to Portico, a navigator organization. Is this the best option as we do intake with our new and existing clients, or would you recommend having a MNSure Outreach representative on site?
I think it depends. I think that is great. Portico is wonderful, one of our best, a great navigator in their grantee organization. And I think you could do various ways. It's not either or. I think it could be an and. Referring folks to Portico, but also reaching out to Portico and saying, we'd love to do something on site one day or once a month during open enrollment, or whatever that might look like for you. And I know that Portico would be very interested in doing that. So that's also, you could do that both ways, I would say.
Okay, and that kind of leads into our second question, which was around if they do want an outreach person on site, it sounds like they can either contact that organization directly, or they could contact you for assistance in finding somebody. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly right. And I would, I am obviously super excited to help folks, but I want to talk to you, like, who are some, if you look on the assister directory, maybe you'll see organizations that you already work really closely with, and you're like, oh, again, I had no idea we work closely with this organization. This is really a natural partnership for us. And if you can come to me with that, I can help bridge that discussion with them. Or if you don't see anyone that really you think fits your needs, having to have that discussion with you to find someone. But I think that's a great option in the role that your agencies play, is we're just having that, knowing already who those trusted organizations are that you can just refer people to and let them know.
Great. So another question, as far as having somebody on site as an outreach person, is it your thought that that's kind of targeted towards right before the enrollment period starts, or is this something that agencies would do year round?
So that's a great question. So you could do this you could do this any time in the year. The reason that a lot of our activities are really during open enrollment is because that's when we leverage we have a media campaign and an advertising campaign, and just the level of visibility of MNsure is increased. So even people who are on public programs, they start seeing things, MNsure can't advertise all year round, unfortunately, because they have budget constraints. So they really focus on that open enrollment period to maximize their resources. And so people just start hearing about it more. So even if they are eligible for a public program, most people are like, oh, MNsure, that's right, that's happening now. So that's why a lot of the activity just takes place during then. And that's actually, honestly, when a lot of folks get enrolled in a public program, even though they are eligible year round. It just, people start hearing it, it's a surround sound effect. So you can, there's a couple ways you could do it during open enrollment period, because you're going to be able to leverage kind of just that surround sound effect that people are hearing about it, but then also recognize that some of our navigator organizations get extremely busy. So I think it's really, if you have an organization like Portico that you have a relationship, just ask them, say, we'd love to do an event. Would you prefer to do this with us during open enrollment? Would you prefer to do it this fall before open enrollment? And really ask them. They might say, oh yeah, let's do it this fall because we get so slammed during open enrollment, it's really hard. Or they might say, it's a really great time to do it during open enrollment because we can build on the momentum around us. So I'd really have that conversation with whatever organization you're going to be doing the enrollment event with.
Great, thank you. So another question, are you still looking for agencies to be navigators or to be grantee agencies? And if so, how would they find out more about that?
Oh, that is a great question. So the grantees request for proposals went out, I think, in April. And so that has already closed. So those are start during the state fiscal year, which is July 1st to June 30th. So that RFP is already closed. But I would expect that every March, April, if you're interested, to get on their mailing list. And you can take a look at this year's RFP. It's still online, so you can see kind of what they're requiring. It's changed every year because, MNsure is a brand new thing, and so they tweak every year. So I wouldn't expect the RFP to look exactly like it did this year, although they're getting kind of closer and closer to what they need. In terms of being a navigator, again, you can check that out on MNsure.org. I believe that's a year-round rolling application that involves it involves some curriculum and obviously training and certification. So check that out on MNsure.org. And if that does not provide you with enough info, I can contact me and I'll connect you directly with the navigator relations person at MNsure to answer your questions.
Great, thank you. And I was just looking at the page right on the MNsure website, so I put the link there of where the assisters information.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So I am not seeing any other questions at this point. So I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. And I just want to say thank you so much, Bethany, for presenting this for us. And as I said, this will be recorded. And so if you have other folks at your agency that you'd like to get this information, we'll get that link out to you and you can certainly share that.
Thanks, Katie. And again, I really appreciate this opportunity. And again, I just want to, I know I said this many times, but you and your organizations and your agencies are just so vital in connecting with these really vulnerable populations that experience many barriers and challenges to getting health care. And so thank you for doing the work that you do and providing a valuable service to Minnesotans. And we'd love to partner with you. So if you do, feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to think through options with you. So thanks again, Katie. Really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Bethany. And I'll put your contact information in the follow-up email as well, so people don't have to worry about writing that down off of the slide here. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.